Fantasy baseball statistics. Welcome into all the subscribers. Let's get it going. Today I'm talking starting pitchers. Yes, it's time to do it. We're finally there. I'm dropping starting pitching, a primer, so we can get on the same page and get knowledgeable. Probably just give you my top 10 SP, a loose top 10 just to get it started. And I am just chomping at the bit to get into auctions. And I jumped over to Yahoo because that's where I like to get my free auction sandbox play in. So we're going to talk prices and basically just my first anticipations of what I'm seeing in the draft. I've got a lot to cover here today. And this is auction draft strategy. You know, everybody else is talking ADP, but I really like to get into the nuance of dominating auctions because they're more fun. So let's start with a little auction draft strategy itself. Is auction nomination. You know, if there's going to be strategy in terms of bidding and winning bids, here's the strategy. Win the bid. You know, win your favorite players. There it is. Good. That's it. We're done here. No, but there's more to it. There's auction nomination. And in auction nomination, there's a lot more subtlety. And I would say as you throw players in there, have a purpose. What you're going to hear out there on the podcast is get money off the table, which would typically mean just nominate the most expensive player, which would be like chasing ADP and nominating and having guys pay as much as they want for those players. But you'll see there's a lot more to auction nomination. There are ways to extend your draft. There are ways to get sleepers and to avoid pinch points late. So I want to get into a little bit more of that. I was asked a question about, do I make projections? That's a good question. So the first simple answer would be no, I'm not. I don't have players where I say they're going to hit these RBIs and these home runs. So no formal projections. But at the same time, yes, at least mentally, I'm developing a projection for this player. The main thing, besides projections, which would be an average, you know, you'll hear about maybe Baseball Prospectus or somewhere else will give a 95th percentile outcomes, 80th percentile. If the guy blows up, it could be this. That's even too extreme. Well, which percentile do you think he's going to hit, I might ask. But something I do consider in my mental projection is floor and ceiling. I'm really betting on floor and ceiling because floor, you have to know floor, because what can happen is it's a long season. It takes a while to get your numbers out of your player. You might get them in the second half. There might be droughts. So by knowing floor, I can develop a tolerance for a player so I don't want to rage cut him. You know, if I accidentally draft Tommy Pham and he goes 13-13 this season, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be upset because I didn't consider the floor. But if I go out and I take a Vlad Jr. again this season and I say, well, you know, maybe he needs more time to be seasoned, I won't be ready to rage cut him after 4 weeks. I can turn him loose because I prepared myself for his floor. But what I'm really buying is his season, his next breakout of what he's going to do. So mentally, I'm in a floor ceiling understanding, floor to help me with the tolerance and some patience, so I can wait to get the numbers out of these guys. I can see historical numbers and trends, and I know that a guy is going to average a certain amount of contact every year because he's been doing it every year. So if he starts the season and he's working out some kinks, or his timing isn't right, or you know something was nagging him from the spring, I can have some patience to give him a little bit more time. I want to touch on another thing as I look at multi-position, which we do like to draft. There's so much multi-position that I think it gives us a fake reality. We think, oh, second base is so deep. You know, third is so deep. Oh, outfield is so deep. But then you see there's so much multi-position that guys are getting pulled over to second. They're getting pulled over to third. And so who you thought was an outfielder, somebody else might be looking to play him at 2B. And where you thought shortstop was deep, those guys wanted to use at 2B to short. So you don't really know. I kind of like to move the players to the weakest position that they might play at, where I want to tuck them away, because the replacement level back at first base is better. I don't want to be playing light power at 1B if he can play second, but you have to know where you're going to push these guys in terms of how you want to build your team. So I just, and I really, I love the community. The shout out to the subscribers. The reason is that you guys are pushing me to be better, to get better at this each year. And I've been in the chair where I just listened to pods or I trusted CBS. And then they burned me and I was like, but why? What did I miss? And I kept accumulating and going deeper and deeper. And so I'm listening to Flags Fly Forever just in the background to get some information. And this is what they do to me here. I have to find it. Let me set it up for you first.
Yeah, I just...
So they're talking about rap. There's misinformation out there, boys. And I'm telling you, we are on the cutting edge. In investigating this and trying to be my best, and trying to be a different animal but the same beast, I found a whole new thing on StatCast. So I'm going to take you into that rabbit hole, but I don't know my way out yet. I don't have the map. So I'm going to bring you down it, and I'm just going to leave you down there, and then we'll find our way out later. But this is where it starts. Flags Fly Forever is doing third base. And right after this first gentleman gets done just tearing down Rafael Devers. And I know that they look at StatCast data because I hear them mention StatCast. I hear Launch Angle mentioned, so I know you guys look at it, at least one of you, and then they're just trashing Devers. And so somehow we're getting into this thing where they're lower on Devers and higher on Moncada, and Chris Bryant is the same, and I'm just like, no way. Listen to these guys go.
Add to... This just supports your points about Devers.
His points that, like, Devers played a full season, and so now he thinks that's not going to happen again. Why? Because he's not injury prone? Now he's going to be injured? And then someone brought up his body type?
This is one of the reasons I like DRC Plus is because it's a metric where you get this holistic number, and you frequently get players that have the same DRC Plus.
And I'm listening. Am I hearing DRC Plus? I know WRC Plus, and I like the stats. I'm checking as many stats as I can. And suddenly I find out there's a DRC Plus. I don't know what it is, but it's probably runs created.
And you're like, oh, okay. So, I mean, obviously it doesn't include, it's not a perfect metric for fantasy because it doesn't include, steals.
Oh my God. It's not perfect because it doesn't include steals. So we're going to be obsessed for talking about speed and steals. We're going to make comments like, he doesn't run that much, so. And I just want to say, when someone says, oh, they don't run that much, that can't be a ding anymore. Nobody's running. There's this many guys that run. That's it. So when someone doesn't run, that's just everybody.
But I think as a rule of thumb metric, it gives you a pretty good kind of retrospective evaluation. And he has the same exact. He had a 125 DRC plus in 2019, which was the exact same as Chris Bryant, and it was 2 points higher than Yohan Moncada. And I'm like,
all right, so here's the all right.
Yeah, okay, he's with those guys. He's great. He's very good offensive player, but he's not head and shoulders above those guys. And also
he's not head and shoulder above these guys. I was screaming into the phone. I made my girlfriend come over. I was like, look at these numbers. These guys are saying that he's not head and shoulders above Chris Bryant and Yohan Moncada. Guys, Baseball Savant, leaderboard, exit velocity and barrels. Underneath hard hit, sort 95 miles per hour plus. Number 1 is Rafael Devers with 252 hard hit. The numbers steeply fall off. Mookie Betts is behind him by almost 20 at 235. Jorge Soler, JD Martinez in the 200s. Bryant's not even on here. He is head and shoulders above those guys. He's a hard hit warrior. He's on the top of the hard hit list. I'm considering if I like Devers more than I like Rendon. Devers is a beast, and I used to get sucked into these traps of these guys just saying, yeah, no, I just don't really like Devers. He looks like a guy that's going to take a step back. He just mashed his way through the league. We haven't talked about Chris Bryant, so now we can take a little peek at him. Let's compare Chris Bryant to Rafael Devers, who by DRC Plus, a metric I've never heard of, are the same players. Immediately when we see Chris Bryant, he's age 28. You can go to the little meters. His exit velocity is light blue. His hard hit is light blue. His XBA is light blue. That's not a good sign. Exit velocity, the old Chris Bryant 5 years ago, 89, 89. We know about the injuries. We know, Chris, it's been hard. Launch angles are great. Exit velocity, 87, 86, 87. The hard hits are in the mid-30s. I don't know if it's ever coming back for Chris. Sure, Chris is lofting the ball, 17-degree launch angle, 17, 19. Okay, but the exit velocities are trash. This looks like a player that might be done. I checked Chris and I said, no, Chris, you're not in my top 40 with those exit velocities like that. Get out of that top 40. Pop over to Rafael Devers. Look at those red bars. Exit velocity elite. Hard hit elite. What are they talking about? 92 exit velocity. Sure, the launch angle is a little bit down. He's got a 47% for a hard hit. He's 23 years old. What do you mean he's going to take a step back? I almost lost it. I almost started adding these guys. Like, you can't just go on there and say this stuff and everybody's going to be devaluing Rafael Devers for no reason and comparing him to Chris Bryant. He's way better than Chris Bryant. So that just frustrated me. Thank you guys for letting me get that out of my system, that comparison. And I heard another thing. I heard someone say, because I like to be precise with the language, I heard him say swing plane, swing something about, so launch angle is not swing plane. You know, like let's just think about a billiards analogy when you're hitting the ball. If you hit a ball straight on, it will go straight. But if you hit a ball slightly over to the side, the second ball that you hit will go off at an angle. And that's kind of the equivalent of launch angle. So I don't have to start uppercut swinging into something to get it to change angles. I might just have to change the height of my point of contact. These guys are also twisting through the ball to get backspin. So there's more goes into it, but launch angle is not swing plane. And somehow he was saying swing plane, and someone made a swing plane adjustment. And I just think that you're just mangling the truth. So let me see. Did I have anything else on that? So that was that. Let's auction draft strategy. I'm fired up. I said, have a purpose with your auction draft. Well, Jay Lee, what do you mean by have a purpose with my nomination? And I'm ready to get into one of these auctions. I'm ready to bring some strategies in there, and I'll tell you a couple of them that I'm already thinking about. And we'll get a little more nuance with it. One is just taxing people. High-end players, just a little $5 tax. Just a soft bump up for guys that I know they're hungry and it doesn't seem like they want to get off. Maybe I want to keep taxing a little bit. Tax. Because I'm okay if I get a really high-end player and I overpay. Again, I only want to buy the players I want. But if I push everybody up a little bit, I'm going to accelerate how fast we get to the money to the cliff. So maybe I tax. I want to mention something that's important. It's called the purchase premium. Winning a pick is important. Getting the win, not really falling into it, but we're all fighting to get in line, to get a player into the roster. And even though a player may cost 30, it's worth something just because you made the buy. So making buys is important. And what I'm looking for here is this early sleeper nomination. And I'm subtle here with early sleeper. I could go with and let's talk about Luis Robert and how I'm going to get Robert. I could say pick one, nominate Robert, go and buy Robert. The danger here is that everybody has money. And I don't want to get noobed into overpaying for Robert because there's so much money. People might overvalue him. Other players are going for 60, but because it's so early, Robert goes for 35. Even though we'll check some prices later, his price is only sitting at 15. So I don't want to go maybe that early. Let me get some money off the table. And then I'll add in another idea is a test player. So maybe I take some upside, some power speed, something that looks like Robert but is not Robert. Maybe a Tommy Pham, something that I don't want to get. So I nominate Pham and I go, okay, so it only went $4 over the average price. It wasn't too aggressive. The next time I can come back, I can put in my player and I can go get him. And the trick, because I will nominate and purchase my own nomination, but I want to keep people off of that. So sometimes I might want to nominate and pretend to want them, and then, oh, you outbid me. I'm conservative. You got them from me. And then I can nominate and go, oh, look, it's me again. Yeah, I'm going to take this guy. So mixing in the test case and taking a sample of the room. And what I meant by pushing up this tax is that there's a cliff. All the money gets spent. Guys are going for teens, and it's basically an overpay. And then suddenly it's sub 10. It's $6, $7 players, and there's a lot of value in there. So some guys want to wait for value. Sometimes that cliff becomes a little steep depending on the room. If I start seeing players going for too cheap, then I do want to put in the most expensive players. I want to make guys spend the most on it. So it's just subtlety of what you're nominating and when. And remember this other idea of be careful giving the auction ideas. So in terms of getting pitching, I don't want to spend on high-end pitching. So if I want other people to make bad picks, maybe I start nominating pitchers. But if I start nominating pitchers and now everybody's nominating pitchers, I might thin through the pool too quickly, and now my sleepers are getting pushed up a little bit. So just being careful. Maybe you want to give them the idea, let's nominate catchers and let everybody deal with that. So just being careful. If you start nominating sleepers, if you start just popping, Vlad and Eloy and throwing them all in there, then maybe everyone else is going to say, oh, you know what, you're right. Start sending in the sleepers. So that's why having a plan on who you want is important. Auction nomination, have a purpose. So here's just a crossover to starting pitching. A big jump. We've got to do it. I checked. Today is February 10th. Spring training starts February 21st. That's 11 days. We have time, but we don't have a ton of time, and we have to get through this list. It's time to look at pitchers. The season starts March 26th. So we have a little time, but we don't have a ton of time. So we have to start getting this right. I want to be ready to get into my first auction and get some players and start banging. And I felt like it was important because I looked at the hitters, and I'm looking at who I'm going to push up next, and I'm like, I'm about to just say Luis Robert. So as I want to push up Robert, I'm like, this is a little quick. I'm going to start chasing young upside right now, guys that don't even have a major league swing in yet. Let me go over and look at the best pitchers. So, Fangraphs. We're going to get on the bicycle, head on over to Fangraphs. I want to bring you along with me. And where in baseball we took it a little step by step, I really need to go into pitching. It's holistic. One metric is never going to be enough. The metrics kind of shape the other ones and shape the next one. So I want to go over all of them with you. Drop the top 10 pitchers who it looks so obvious right out of the gates. Let me get up this Fangraphs right over here. Here we go. So if you go into pitching leaders 2019, you get the dashboard. The dashboard is sorted by WAR. There you go. You get the guys. Garrett Cole, 1, 7.4. Jake DeGrom, 7. Aren't those the Cy Youngs? Right. They had great seasons. They have huge WAR seasons. But WAR isn't that helpful in telling me about the player. Lance Lynn, not our favorite guy. Wow, Lance, he had a great season. He really bounced back. So let's jump over to what I would probably call the key metrics. On the tab where it says dashboard, click on advanced. Advanced is a little more interesting. It doesn't sort by anything, but let me give our favorite number of the day where we can start. It's K minus BB percentage. Sort that. And basically that's what we're doing with our stats. We're checking categories and we're sorting and we're looking at the players that pop up, and then we're making a holistic view and we're tabulating the data. K minus BB percentage. This is strikeout minus walk percentage. And at the end of the day, in pitching, there's really only one thing we can control, and it's probably the strikeout. The strikeout is important because it gets pitchers out of jams, it keeps guys off of base, it's a counting stat. I love Ks, and we're gonna win Ks, and this is how we're gonna do it. K minus BB percentage is one of the best just filth meters. We look at this every season, and you see a list of players. You don't make this leaderboard unless you're filthy. Garrett Cole, a 34. His strikeout rate was approaching 40 and his walk was at 6. Verlander, a 30. Scherzer, a 30. There's your elite K minus BB, is in the 30s. And what I notice from year to year, guys don't really hold 30s, but it shows what they can flash. Elite for me in K minus BB is 20 and up. So if we round out the rest of the 20s, DeGrom with the 26, Bieber with the 25, Giolito with the 24, Walker Buehler with the 24. Let's throw Matt Boyd in there with his 24. Okay, we're going to have to look at those players, show them some respect. Rounding out down to the 20s, Darvish, Strasburg, Morton, Flaherty, Lynn, Kershaw, Robbie Ray, Corbin. No mysteries there. Those look like the guys. But there's more to these players. There's more involved than just K minus BB. While we're over here, I'm going to point out the 3 key ERA predictors, which are FIP, xFIP, and SIERA. And like I said, this is a little starting pitcher primer because I got to bring you guys along with me. FIP is fielding independent pitching. And it looks at specific metrics. It wants where the fielding doesn't matter, so I believe it has to do with Ks, home runs, walks, things where they could strip the fielding out of there. But it's very home run centric. While we're on this page, in terms of home runs, the thing you have to look at is your home runs per 9 innings. Think of 1 as being the tipping point. If you're giving up 1 home run per 9, that's okay. But as you start to get up to 1.5 or 2, you're giving up the long ball. If you're sub 1 on your home runs per 9, you're suppressing home runs. And historically, as I looked at the data from 2017-18 to 2019 last season, one of the big things that changed is ERA was up and home runs per 9 were up. And we know that because the barrels were up and there was a lot of power. So that's kind of to be expected. What's happening with FIP is it's that particular pitcher's home run per 9 is in the equation. So we kind of say that FIP tells you how well a pitcher pitched previously. xFIP uses league average home run per 9. So xFIP is kind of banking that the pitcher's home run per 9 is going to regress towards the mean, so it's predictive unless that pitcher has a really specific way of either suppressing or giving up bombs. But xFIP is the future predictor. SIERA, skills independent earned run average. The equation is even more wild for that. They want to include the fielding and how the hit's going, so they include things like ground balls, which are considered good because they lead to outs. But pop-ups are also outs. So you can always sort your SIERA on your skills independent earned run average, and there they are: Garrett Cole, Scherzer, Verlander, DeGrom, Bieber. Those are the guys that went well last season, and you can look at it. It's calibrated to look like ERA. That's a great list. I'm just going to click on xFIP. Lower the xFIP, the better, as it tracks ERA. Let's use at the top of our xFIPs: Garrett Cole, Scherzer, DeGrom, Strasburg. So you're seeing these guys' FIPs, xFIPs, and SIERAs are tracking. And one of the things I will especially do, because for pitchers, I know they have to go right, so I start to slice up the season. I start to take first half and second half. I'll go month by month. I'll pick my own term. Because sometimes we know who the studs are. They keep popping up on the top of all the lists. But when we have to get ready for next season, for sleepers, for stuff we want to buy for cheap, we have to see them flash the skills. So they might have flashed them in the second half. They might have flashed them for a couple months. And I will tend to lean towards the guys that I know have the potential to flash those skills as opposed to others. Let's keep going though. So that's just a little bit. That's just a little sample. I know this is an advanced crowd. You haven't stuck with me this far if you weren't here for the knowledge. So let's keep going. Across that board, we went to advanced. We're going to skip batted ball for now. We're going to go to pitch type. Click on pitch type. Ooh, I love pitch type. This is sorted by fastball velocity. And you're going to notice some more trends here. Look at that. Noah Syndergaard, 97.7. Garrett Cole, 97.2. Jake DeGrom, 96.9. I'm going to give the decimals because every little bit matters over here in the velo world. So one of the reasons Garrett Cole and Jake DeGrom went so well is the hard cheddar. 97, 97. Zach Wheeler, 96.7. Walker Buehler, 96.6. So yes, I'm buying velocity. And I suggested quickly a Sandy Alcantara. Sure, it's 95.6, but he wasn't great last year. So velocity alone doesn't get it done, but we're definitely checking on it. And that's where I'm going, is in pitch type and looking at those velos. The other thing on this page is they're showing you pitch mix. You have fastballs is FB, SL is slider, CT is your cutter, CB is your curveball, CH is your change, SF is your split finger, and knuckles, which nobody throws anymore. So the pitch mix is interesting. Noah Syndergaard using 60% fastballs, just throwing the cheddar. He sprinkles in 4 other pitches. We can go down to Luis Castillo, throwing his fastball only 50%, and then he's primarily slider and change. He doesn't have the 4th pitch. So pitch mix is definitely another thing to consider, how much they're using it, if they're using something, if they're pulling back on something else. We'll be able to see that when we dive further into the individual player pages. So you got to look at that fastball velo. The other thing that I'm paying acute attention to when the season starts is where the velo sits the next season. This 97 is not guaranteed. The year off that Luis Castillo took off and broke hearts, he was down 2 miles per hour. What's amazing is Garrett Cole found his most velocity of his life last season. So that, I'm sure that helps too. But will he be able to ramp that back up after he put 210 innings on it? We'll see. We got to click over more. There's more to go. It's holistic. So we can jump into a picture and we can see the entire thing about them. One more over, plate discipline. So the interesting thing is we know plate discipline from the hitters because we're looking at it over there. And then they judge the pitchers by the same metrics they're judging the hitters. And we want the inverse. When we click on plate discipline, they sort it by O swing. O swing is chase. We don't want chase. Chase is bad. You're outside the zone. You're not going to make good contact, if any. So chase is a good way to look at it. And let's look at who's on the top of the list again. Jake DeGrom, a 37.9 chase. In a way, he's making all the hitters bad hitters because that's a terrible chase. I mean, I don't want to chase much above 30. Verlander, Strasburg, both at 37, getting guys out. Tanaka, they're all on here. Scherzer, so different amounts of chase. Scan across on the chase and look at our other favorite, not O swing, is zone contact, Z contact. 80 being okay, 70s making me nervous, mid 80s is good, 90s is great, and we get to see a difference. Justin Verlander, while getting a 37% O swing chase, only a 77% zone contact. Very hard to hit in the zone. The reason Masahiro Tanaka is not as good, his O swing at 36.9, but the zone contact at 88. So when he does come back inside, he's getting hit. And so these low zone contact guys pop out. Scherzer, 78. Garrett Cole, oh, his O swing is only a 35. That puts him at 16th on the list. What's the magic? The zone contact when he comes in, whenever he feels like it, 77. So we're looking at these things. There's give and take. We have to look at all of them because one is not going to be enough. But the real magic, we want Ks. We want to win Ks. Sort that swinging strike, STR percentage, swinging strike percentage. And that really is another filth meter because a swinging strike is probably the number one metric to getting me a K for a K percentage. So there we go again. Garrett Cole with a 16 for a swinging strike. DeGrom with a 15.4. I'm skipping around a little bit. Flaherty, good step forward, 13.8 swinging strike. And these start to fall down. So the 20th player, Walker Buehler, with the 12 swinging strike, that's good. It wasn't everything Walker had, so we've got to look at it. I think a 12 is good. There's more guys into the 11, but that really elite swinging strike I love. And again, when I segment up the rest of the season, I will look for guys who just flash filthy swinging strike. It just flash something later. Maybe walks were the problem. They've got some strikes, but they've got some wildness. That's another thing to look at. So after that, sticking on your Savant, I like to go a little bit into the individual player pages and just look at where they're going. Look at how they're performing. A couple things we'll look at. First is age. Garrett Cole, 25 years old. And I'm just using Garrett as a sample. The reason I'd like to start with the high-end guys, it's not only to know the high-end and to be able to distinguish between them and not just not care and say they're all the same because they're not, is it also sets the bar. I mean, at this point, the way we went through hitters, you can go to any hitter and you can you can quickly scan those numbers and get a feel for it and compare them to the best guys in the league. And that's going to be the same thing with the pitching. I want to go and I want to see what Garrett did. Right, Garrett went for 212 innings. His K per 9 was 13.8. That's ridiculous. A 9 K per 9 is good. I'm good at a 9. Anything over 9 is great. 13 is ridiculous. I care a lot about walk rate. BB per 9. Because this is wildness. The more walks, the more trouble you get into. The more walks, when you give up that home run, the more trouble you're going to be in, the more prone to blow-ups you're going to be. I'm looking at that home run per 9, 1.23 from Garrett, okay, in last year's environment, but not amazing. And then the last thing I want to sprinkle in is that left on base, because for some reason, left on base is a little bit of that luck metric. The reason that we saw Snell take a little bit of a step back, his Cy Young season, his left on base was something crazy. It was high. But it's really hard to maintain that. There's a little bit of luck. You got out of so many jams. So here we see Garrett Cole with a left on base of 83, where his career or league average is more around 76. So maybe, Garrett had that magic season. We can't guarantee it next season. It might not be perfect. We do love all the other metrics, absolutely. I'm always checking. Then you got to scroll down to the player. Skip the advance, skip the batted ball, more batted ball, pitch type. Pitch type, there it is. And now just for this player, historically, they've got the usage, they've got the percentage used, and then they got the speed of the ball. And so it's been wild to see Garrett since the beginning of his career, 96, 95, 95, 2017, 96, 2018, 96.6, 2019, 97. So whether it's mechanically or with training, Garrett just continued to find more and more hard stuff. Hard stuff is dangerous because I find that these high velocities can't always be maintained. Something gets tired, lat, shoulder. Mechanically, something might go. But while the hard stuff is there, we want to stick to it. The other thing I'm seeing in usage, I like to look at the off speed. He was striking out a lot of guys. Notice in 2018, 20% slider, 20% curveball. Last season, he went to 23% sliders, throwing it slightly more frequently, backing off on the curveball a little bit, and then you see a change. Usage was up slightly. I'm always looking at the fastball to change up the velocity differential there, and we'll see some studliness of why Giolito was so filthy, because that velocity gap was so big. And then we just come down, let's just take a peek at the plate discipline, and we see that Garrett Cole got the most O swing of his career last season with 35. He had the most swinging strike of his career at 16.8. He was 14.1 last season. He took a little step forward. Some of that probably came from switching the pitch mix, and then we can look deeper into how those pitches are affecting other players. Garrett Cole. Jacob deGrom. Let's jump over to the deGrominator. You know, these are my 1-2. I can't say there's other pitches to go for than Garrett Cole and Jake deGrom. deGrom 31. Okay, getting a little older. Used to play shortstop. Doesn't have as much mileage on the arm. K per 9, 11.25. Good. BB per 9, 1.94. A little better than Garrett. A little tighter in the zone. Home run per 9, 0.84. Really good home run suppression, which he's been doing for a while. We can get down into pitch mix. Let's just see how hard he's throwing the P. 97. Again, not Garrett. We're on Jake deGrom here. Jake deGrom reaches back and finds some more velocity. So I don't know if this is from the training, if they're able to give these guys more tips. deGrom's velocity goes up a tick. He used more slider, and he shelved the curveball. So the curveball usage from 8 down to 3, that's almost not even throwing it. The change is about the same, but he's snapping off more sliders, and it's a hard slider. He went from the 91, 89, 91 to 92.5 last season. But sliders are dangerous. The slider is probably the worst torque because it's hard, and they're breaking it off with the wrist. So it puts them at a little bit more risk for injury or for wear and tear. Just something to look at. Swinging strike. deGrom's always been filthy. Plate discipline, you can see it. You can see the zone contact, the swinging strikes. This is how you break these guys down. And then I want to go to a couple of the old men. I want to go to Justin Verlander, 36 years old. Woo! Man, he's been stringing together 200 inning seasons for the last 4 years. Tames the walks. Mechanics dial up. Verlander becomes a control master at a 1.7 BB per 9. Still a little susceptible to the long ball at a 1.45 on the home runs per 9. Everything else looks good. His FIP and his xFIP aren't as sparkling as the other two. Let's just check on his pitch mix. What are you using, Justin? Well, the fastball. He's 36. JV in his prime, he's touched 93. Go back a couple seasons, 95. Last season, 94. And he used the fastball 10% less. So he's getting off of it as it's a little slower. And what did he start using more of? He's breaking off more sliders. The most sliders of his career, in fact, at 28.4% usage. The curveball is still about the same, and he sprinkles in a change. But he used a lot more changes early in his career, and he's had to shelve it. It's a little bit of a feel thing. And as the top end velocity comes down, if you're not slowing down the change, your differential is shrinking, and the change is less effective. Guys can see it. They can get off the hard stuff and switch to the change. So the pitch mix is evolving. We have to look at the pitch mix. Swinging strike, the best of JV's career. And yes, there were a lot of swinging strikes. So I think league-wide, the reason we saw so many barrels and so much home runs was a lot of guys swinging out of their shoes, knowing how important the home run was and how exciting it was in this league. And the swinging out of the shoes led to some more strikeouts. And that's how we're seeing these guys just really take advantage if they have the right stuff of the strikeout environment. Max Scherzer, 35 years old. Innings on the arm. He's been throwing 200 innings since 2013. And I tried to warn guys when people were taking Scherzer in round 1. It's like, guys, there's a lot of innings on that arm. He went from 220 last season down to 172. But they were sparkling innings. 12.69 K per 9. 1.72 walks per 9. Home run suppression decent at a .94. The FIPS and the xFIPS, they all look good. Let's check the pitch mix on a Scherzer. He's still throwing 94, 95, mixing in a slider. He added a cutter, curveball change. It's all there. Swinging strike. Scherzer's always been pretty nasty. Going back to 2015, 15, 15, 15, 2018, 16, 16. So the strikeouts are always there with the Scherzer. He's a lock to go again. Is he an injury risk? A little bit, but he knows how to do this. His arm is prepared for it. That's how I'm assessing the pitchers. I wanted to give you a feel. I wanted to get a total look at pitchers of how we're getting into it. Let's see. Let's go over. Let's do these prices, and I'll save the rabbit hole for the very end. Auction prices. Auction prices. Because I want to get in here. So Yahoo, that's where I want to go. It's easy. It's free. The app is nice. Good place to practice. That's where we have our leagues on. And yes, we will be adding an extra subscriber league this season because I know the boys from last season want a piece of it again. So we got to get some room for the new subs, some people that are getting more comfortable with the auction. So you can get in here, get some practice, get a feel for it, enjoy a good competitive league. But I'm over here at Yahoo, draft analysis, auction drafts, sort by average cost. Right away, Ronald Acuna is listed at 57.5. So he's a $60 player. Trout is going for 55. Yelich is going for 53. There's the big three. You have to anticipate spending 60. If the room is feisty, it could go to 65. I think 70, you probably get them, but you've got to set aside a big chunk of change for those three. Mookie Betts at 46, Bellinger at 46, and then Garrett Cole at 44. See, there's that, sorry. I'm not going to own any Garrett Cole whatsoever because I'm just not putting my money towards high-end starting pitcher in an auction when I can wait and really get who I want later. Francisco Lindor, 43, no discount. Apparently everybody knows what we thought of him in 2018, no discount on a Lindor. Nato, 41, Bregman, 40. So here you see all these guys from a $60 player, or you can come down to the next tier for a $40 player. Trey Turner, still living the dream at 40. Juan Soto, 40. And here it is. Tatis Jr. going for 37. So 30 is never going to happen. 40 is a minimum. I'm sure guys are going to 50 to drive the price up this high. Freddie Freeman at 36. Verlander at 36. See, I just can't do it. I just can't get in on a pitcher at that price. Scherzer at 36. Expensive. Story, JD, Rendon. Walker Buehler at 33.9, $34. Man, Walker. I liked it last season when I was getting Walker for 20. I'll have to see if I'm really ready to spend that on an ace. We got to look at the topography and who I'm happy with later. Jose Ramirez for 33. That's not where I have him. I don't want much Jose Ramirez at 33 because I have him down a little bit. I don't know. The BABIPs are low. He's small. Gleyber Torres at 32. Judge, Flaherty. Pete Alonso. Not much discount. Big Pete at 31. Clevenger, the Bryce price. Bryce at 30. Hey, it's Bryce. It's Harper. And you're going to always have to pay for it. But here's an interesting one. Yordan Alvarez at 28. So you're looking at Yordan for a $30 coin at the minimum. And if I learned any lesson, I say it to myself. I say, don't overpay for the small sample size call-ups that they don't have a book on. And they only play half a season and they just get fed fastballs. Because they come back the next season, they have a book on them. And the pitchers have respect. And they change it up on them. And so that is my warning, but I love Yordan Alvarez. I just had to say it because I'm going to get some pieces there. I'm going to make some room for him in my outfield for sure. Bieber. And here I see two mistakes. Altuve and Starling Marte. I went to Starling Marte's profile, another guy that I looked at when I was looking at my top 40. I said, get Marte out of here. He's aging. He's running less. He's a soft hitter. I mean, Marte could go 18-10 on you next season. Did he go to Arizona? I've got to look at what the Humidor is doing. The park is better than Pittsburgh. Maybe he's got more in the tank, but a $30 outfielder, Starling Marte? No, I'm going to be living the dream with your Don. And so just to segue to this auction draft strategy is when I'm going to prepare, I've set up a little bit of a ladder system at each position. I want this guy, but it's this expensive. If I don't get this guy, I've got to drop down to the next guy. But you've got to judge the gap. Do I want to spend 10 less for that guy, or is it worth getting the top guy? And if I know that that's the last guy I'm okay with, I'm going to have to pay whatever it costs. I'm going to have to extend that little extra amount of change. Javi Baez at 26, and here it is. Rafael Devers for $25. Man, he hits the ball a lot, and he hits it hard for only 25. Chris Bryant is 23. So again, those guys are too close. I think Rafael Devers is at least $10 better than Chris Bryant, and I don't even want to spend $24 on Chris Bryant. So I already see these mistakes just jumping out in the auction. Blake Snell for 24, it seems high. Charlie Blackmon, 24. God, the historic love for him. Because I know the projections have Blackmon. He's just living the dream every year because of the past track record. But he's 33 now. The Whit Merrifield of Dreams for $24. Whit went did he go 10 and 20 last season? And he's still going for 24? That just is a mistake. George Springer's right after him for $23. I would much rather have George's 35 to 38 bombs over Merrifield's I run less, no bombs whatsoever. So these things are jumping out. Austin Meadows, I'm not sleeping him on anyone, $23. Keston Hiura, $22. These guys are already expensive. The Vlad discount, Vlad down to 22, okay. Machado at 22. I want to keep going to the next page here. Kershaw Nolan. Does anybody else drop down? Eloy, not much of a discount at 20. Ketel Marte for 19. Like I said, I think that's cheap for Ketel. So if you know you're going to get some Ketel, you're okay to spend 25. I mean, always anticipate $5 over. So when I'm setting up my structure and I'm looking at how I'm going to allocate the money, I'll put $10 over. If I know I need Ketel, I'll call him a 30. And so I talked about this last season with the slush fund. If I start getting a guy at a discount from what I thought I was going to pay, I'm making gains in the auction. Ooh, I can pay up. Oh, that went easier than expected. I'm going to go out and get myself a closer. So anticipate overspending off of these average prices. Joey Gallo for 18? Gosh, that seems like a lot for someone that's going to kill you on average. I guess we really are paying for that power. And then closers are going for 17. Those are huge mistakes. Somehow Bo Bichette is up here. So there's mistakes in the auction. Absolutely. Jeff McNeil for 14. Gosh, I'll have to check. Luis Robert for only 13. That's going to be a signature player for me. I, for some reason, just feel like Luis Robert is going to go 30-30 batting leadoff out of the gates for the White Sox this year. I really feel that way for some reason. So I'm going to be buying in there. You're seeing some other discounts. I wanted to look at the Cliff and Puig. Ooh, Puig for 12. It just seems like a lot. Carlos Carrasco, Brantley going for almost nothing. Are there any huge, Madison Bumgarner for 8? For 8? I need a starting pitcher. Will I take Bumgarner for 8? Probably. Kevin Biggio's on here, so we'll get better deep, and that's what I mean. We've got to advance the process here. We've got to move through some of these players so that I can get ready to get in here and bang in these auction drafts. All right. The rabbit hole. Baseball savant. This happened when I was looking at pitchers. If you go to pitching on Baseball Savant, they're adding in a lot of information. There's pictures of how they're throwing. There's the typical barrels and exit velocities. There's these graphs. And then there's pitch tracking. There's a lot of numbers in there, so let me just piece out some of the important ones on pitch tracking. The four-seamer, the whiff rate, whiff percentage, and then put away. But I'm mostly looking at that whiff number. That's a swing and a miss. And this was a little tricky. Swinging strike is swings and misses per pitch. But whiff is swings and misses per swing. So there's a slightly difference there. There's a slight difference between swinging strike and whiff. But what I see when I see a low whiff rate on the four-seamer, I want to say that person almost suffers from a bad fastball. They've got to use the fastball to get ahead in counts. They've got to use it for strikes. But we can see who's the first one. I went to DeGrom here. He's got a whiff rate of a 40 on the changeup. And then that becomes his put-away pitch. I'll just mention that a sinker is really a really hard fastball with a little bit of drop on it, but it's almost like a fastball. And what's interesting is Baseball Savant is picking up pitches slightly differently than how Fangraphs is getting them, so we've got to deal with that. So I keep going down here, and oh my God, it's like it's changing. You know what I mean? It's a different beast, but it's the same animal. There's vertical movement and horizontal movement. And this is a little bit counterintuitive because a minus can mean to the left and the plus is to the right. You've got to look at handedness. This stuff matters, but it's getting granular. So I may not have to get that granular yet, not from my top 10 for sure. Plate discipline is there. Everything is there. Batted ball profile. And then you even go down. There's a pitch distribution, and it's starting to show the bands of the speed. I got the fastball here for DeGrom working up in the 90, 95 to 100. Then he's got his slider working at a band, his changeup working at a band. And these velocity bands, guys being able to work at different velocities, are keeping hitters off balance, not letting them square it up because they don't know what's coming. And that is part of the pitch mix. But here it comes. So I switch on pitch highlighter. I get to pitch highlighter, give Baseball Savant a second, and then, oh my goodness, what is this? You can use the mouse to scroll over the words, like pitch type breakdown. Slider shows where the sliders went, shows where the force, shows where everything went. The results, I can scroll over that. And then I come over to contact and I can scroll over that, showing the barrels, showing the solid contact, the flares, burners, the tops, the hit under, the weak. What? And then I said to myself, oh my God, I want to see that for the hitters. I mean, yeah, sure, I care about what the pitchers are giving up, but man, I would love to know that for the hitters. Come over, go to, let's say, a Devers pitch highlighter. Are we kidding? There it is. There it is. And so let me just give one nugget, because we are in a rabbit hole, and I don't have a map. I don't have breadcrumbs. I don't have a flashlight. I have nothing. I have nowhere to turn. So we're going to find our way out of here. But I find one little gem. Is if you highlight barrels, you can start to see the zones that they're calling things. There's the angle. Velocity is how far out on the pie. The angle is where it is on the half circle. But there's a magic number in here. Solid contact. Solid contact is balls hugging really, really tight to the exit, to the barrel, but they're nothing else. They're not low. They're not. Look at what happens. Flares are low and trash. Topped is grounder is awful. Weak under is, I don't know. Hit under is pop-ups. But suddenly I realized solid contact matters. Solid contact matters. And to go back to why Devers is head and shoulders above other hitters, his solid contact under his batted ball profile is a 9.6. League average is 5.6. If it's not barreled, it's solid. Let me see Chris Bryant. Chris, how's your solid? How's your solid contact? 6.8. 6.8. So Devers is, even if his barrels aren't better, his solid contact is better. We got new places to look. What is this? But I'm not done yet. One more little nugget. And just to talk about the late Kobe Bryant, talked about people that are just passionate and getting into detail. And that's what we're here to do. Checking back over on these pitchers. Jake DeGrom. I was in pitch highlighter. I was like, oh my God, what else is underneath here? This was not here last season, or I just didn't look. I don't know. Click on Visual Pitch Report. What is this? Baseball Savant. And now I get a little story on the left. Scroll down. I've got this thing of there's these balls and they're colored, how many he used. Then they keep scrolling. They sprinkle them across the plate, percentages, videos, revolutions. This is madness. This is a madness amount of detail. The diagram with the movement, this is all his pitches showing horizontal and vertical movement with gravity in inches. I love that. I love that. That's every pitch and how much movement. Keep scrolling. They're not done. Look at these videos. Release point. Oh my God. I mean, I was back in the day. If a pitcher starts using a funky release point, it can be a precursor to injury. I don't know if that's here. The pitches have to come out of the same location to tunnel. That makes it harder for the hitters to pick them up. That's its whole own. That's its whole own animal. Same beast. And then you can keep going. There, where they went, how they got barreled. There is so much data in there. The last thing on it, here's the flow of all of DeGrom's pitches this season, connecting bars in a pie chart. And it starts to show the kind of counts he gets himself in and the pitches he uses in certain counts. And 3-0, he throws fastballs. You know, he goes to one strike, 0-1 more often than he goes to 1-0. It's just more to look at. It's more granular. Start with your fan graphs. Start over there. Let me just finish with my top 10 pitchers who I'm probably not going to get, at least these first four. Garrett Cole, 1. Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when it comes to really getting cute, these next 6, maybe 7, who I think are the obvious, just sexy, we like them, expensive, filthy, is Steven Strasburg, Mike Clevenger, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, my dude, Noah Syndergaard still, Shane Bieber, and Bauer. Forget Bauer's first name, but you know who I'm talking about. Those are the guys that are just, they're showing up elite. They have all the stuff. I have one more minute here. I want to tell one little story. We could do individual players all day. Maybe we'll get back to it. But I just want to tell the tale of Steven Strasburg a little bit. Strasburg is 31, and we've always known the filth is there. The Ks per 9, the walks, it's the usual. He's averaging a K.9 of about 10.8, almost 11. He's strikeouty. A little bit walky, 2.4. What we saw from the Stras is he strung together 210 innings, finally, at 31 years old. He finally stayed healthy. The FIPS and the XFIPS sit in the low threes, so he looks good. Getting down to pitch mix, we got to see it. As the fastball velo for Stras has gone down in his career, he started in the league at 97, 3 years of 95, tinkered in the mid 94, 95. Last season, the fastball velocity came down to 94. Maybe he's not throwing it as hard. Maybe he doesn't have it as much. He threw it the least of his career at 48%. But this is the key. He just shelved the slider. He took it off the plate. He got injured. He threw it 17% of the time back in 2016. He just shelved it. What did he replace it with? Curveballs. So the 94 on the fastball, he had to drop down to an 81 on the curveball, which he's now throwing 30% of the time. He's sprinkling a change that works, that he probably uses against lefties. And there it is. He made it through a full season. Can we go to his plate discipline? Swinging strike was up a little bit probably because of the environment, but he's always had swinging strike stuff. He's always had stuff to get guys outside the zone. That's how we're analyzing starting pitchers. We got to keep it going. We got to get ready to get into these auctions. Big shout out to all the subscribers putting in the work, not going to get outworked, getting an edge. I got Phil out there studying like there's no tomorrow. We got to put it in. Holler at your boy.